follow the instructions of our lawyers, and we obey the law,
I
Representative.
hope that you're proud of your performance today, Mr. Secretary, because
I hope you get some social media clips.
I think it's pretty safe to say that this is probably the most corrupt Treasury Department in our nation's history. And while you dance around questions to protect Trump, Americans are suffering in Trump.
Welcome back to Freedom Forge. If you enjoy in-depth political analysis, congressional hearing breakdowns, and discussions about government accountability, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest coverage of the biggest battles taking place in Washington. Today, we're looking at a fiery congressional hearing involving Treasury Department leadership, questions about tax enforcement, presidential audits, executive branch accountability, and a dramatic confrontation that quickly turned into one of the most heated exchanges we've seen in recent months.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary, nice to have you back before our committee. Mr. Secretary, do you believe that all Americans should follow our tax laws?
Yes, Congressman.
Yes, good. So do I. And do you believe that for those Americans who break our tax laws, they should be audited or held accountable?
Well, I think there are two things there. An audit is not a result of breaking the law.
Yes or no? Simple question.
Well, no, it's not a simple question. It's
okay,
a two-part
then
question.
let me break it into two. Do you think they should?
If you're asking me,
please don't
should every
interrupt
taxpayer
me.
be audited?
Please answer that. I came here for answers. If you came here to waste time, I'm going to try to make sure you don't do that. Do you believe that people who lie on their tax returns should be audited?
Yes.
Okay, do you think that people who break our laws should be held accountable, our tax laws?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Very simple. Not a hard question. I'm glad we agree. So why is it that you are allowing President Trump to have complete immunity from being audited?
Again, I'm going to have to refer you to my previous statements. And
what was your previous statement, sir?
That I am unable to comment on any of the ongoing litigation.
Okay, can you name the ongoing case concerning President Trump's immunity from audit?
Sorry?
Can you name?
There are three cases.
Can you name them, please?
That are out there now, and I will be happy to get back to you on those, because again, I am not a lawyer.
Okay.
We are represented by the DOJ.
Great, you said that you can't because there's ongoing litigation. You'll get me the name of the ongoing litigation, because the only ongoing litigation that I know of is surrounding the $1.8 million slush fund, which has already been suspended. The fact is that the judge's ruling in the litigation that references that slush fund only addresses the anti-weaponization fund. It doesn't even address Trump's immunity from audit. So I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the judge's order in the Floyd versus Department of Justice case.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, Secretary, you said you're not an attorney, is that correct?
Mercifully.
Okay, well, I am, and I'm actually proud to be an attorney and know the laws, and I know how to read a judicial ruling. Furthermore, I know that since 1962, the Supreme Court has held that ongoing litigation does not prevent someone from testifying in a congressional hearing. So once again, I'm going to ask, why are you allowing President Trump and his family to have complete immunity from being audited?
Again, since you're a lawyer, you will understand that the U.S. Treasury and the IRS are represented by the Justice Department and the Acting Attorney General.
Yes, but I just mentioned a Supreme Court case that doesn't bar you from testifying. It's pretty clear to me, though, however, that you're not interested in answering questions. You're interested in arguing. Let me ask you this question. If President Biden amended a prior tax return and claimed that he was owed $1 billion, do you think that that would be audited, or should it be audited?
I'm not going to talk about any
because you're not really here to answer questions. I don't understand why you wouldn't audit that, and I don't understand why you wouldn't do the same for President Trump. So the ruling by the Justice Department,
do you have specific knowledge of an audit of President Trump?
Excuse me. It's my time. You're not here to ask me questions. I'm here to ask you questions, and hopefully you're here to try to answer some of them. I'm curious to know who counts as Trump's family for the purposes of this immunity. Is it his children, his in-laws, his grandchildren, his second or third cousin, his great-great-grandchildren? Do you know the answer to that question, Mr. Secretary?
Again, I imagine you have the Justice Department phone number. I would suggest you call them.
I'm not the one that runs the Department of the Treasury or that oversees what is happening with this immunity that has been granted.
I'm not the one either. We follow the instructions of our lawyers, and we obey the law,
I
Representative.
hope that you're proud of your performance today, Mr. Secretary, because
I hope you get some social media
I think it's pretty
clips.
safe to say that this is probably the most corrupt Treasury Department in our nation's history. And while you dance around questions to protect Trump, Americans are suffering in Trump's spiraling economy. Inflation is now rising faster than average hourly wages. Gas prices are at an all-time high with the war in Iran. The cost of groceries has risen 3.2% over the past years, and prices on most goods have gone up because of Trump's tariffs. So I don't see how you could call that anything other than a failure of the most corrupt Treasury Department in history.
Your time has expired, Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you. My time has expired.
Secretary, I would love for you to respond to the accusations at your department, because I think you are due the opportunity for that.
The Congresswoman is slanderous. She has nothing but the unsubstantiated opinions, and I will not stand for that. There is nothing corrupt. We move at the highest levels, and just because she cannot get the answer she wants, if she would like to give me facts, she seems long on facts, short on facts, long on hot air, and I will not stand for that. Yeah, that's great.
Mr. Arrington is recognized.
Disgrace to make a remark like that.
Apparently, my colleagues had a sudden interest in the rule of law. I wonder if you asked her if she thought illegal immigrants should be detained and deported or caught and released, what the answer would be.
Well, and Congressman, and two, on inflation, I am not going to take firefighting advice from an arsonist.
Well, Mr. Secretary,
they torch the American people.
Mr. Secretary, maybe we ought to ask the question:
inflation.
should the sons of presidents who have multiple felony convictions, should they be held to the same standard of the American people in terms of crime and punishment? I wonder what the answer to that question would be. Let's not veer off. Apparently, wages and take-home pay aren't the only thing up in this country. Irony and hypocrisy is at an all-time high among my Democrat colleagues.
Now we see why someone leaves California every 2 minutes.
And that hypocrisy and irony starts with questions about price increases. It was the failed economic policies, one self-inflicted failed economic policy after the other, that created the worst inflation crisis in a half a century.
The hearing was supposed to focus on whether tax laws are being applied fairly and consistently, including questions about audits, ongoing litigation, and allegations that certain individuals may be receiving special treatment under the law. But as the hearing progressed, it became clear that the discussion was evolving into a much larger debate about government credibility, political double standards, and the growing hostility that seems to dominate so many congressional hearings today. Right from the beginning, the questioning started with what appeared to be a straightforward line of inquiry. The Congresswoman asked whether Americans should follow tax laws. The Secretary agreed. She asked whether people who break tax laws should be held accountable. Again, he agreed. At first glance, it looked like a simple effort to establish common ground before moving into more controversial territory. But then the focus shifted toward President Trump, allegations regarding audits, and questions about what the Congresswoman described as immunity from scrutiny. This is where the hearing became especially interesting. The Secretary repeatedly stated that he could not comment on matters connected to ongoing litigation and referred to legal guidance from the Department of Justice. Now, whether viewers agree with that explanation or not, it raises an important question. What is the proper role of executive branch officials during active legal disputes? Should they freely discuss matters that government lawyers are actively handling? Or should they remain cautious and defer to legal counsel? Reasonable people can disagree on that question. But what stood out during this exchange was that the hearing increasingly felt less like a search for answers and more like a political argument. The Congresswoman clearly believed she had identified a serious issue involving unequal treatment under the law. The Secretary clearly believed he was being asked questions he could not appropriately answer in a public hearing. The result was a collision course that produced more confrontation than clarity. As a conservative, one thing that concerns me is the growing tendency for congressional hearings to become opportunities for politicians to deliver speeches rather than opportunities to uncover facts. Oversight is important. Accountability is important. Congress absolutely has the authority and responsibility to investigate government actions. But if the objective is truly to obtain answers, then witnesses need an opportunity to explain their positions. Otherwise, hearings risk becoming little more than televised arguments. One of the most revealing moments came when the Congresswoman suggested that the Treasury Department was the most corrupt in American history. That is an extraordinary accusation. When someone makes a claim of that magnitude, Americans should expect evidence, documentation, and facts that support such a serious charge. At the same time, public officials should also be prepared to defend their actions and explain their decisions. Accountability works both ways. What happened next was perhaps the most explosive moment of the entire hearing. After the Congresswoman's time expired, another member gave the Secretary an opportunity to respond. And respond he did. He rejected the accusations entirely. He described the comments as unsubstantiated opinions and argued that criticism without evidence should not be treated as fact. Whether viewers agree with him or not, this was one of the few moments in the hearing where the audience finally got to hear a direct response rather than a series of interruptions. This highlights a larger problem in Washington. Too often, hearings generate headlines based on accusations. The responses rarely receive the same level of attention. The accusation becomes the story. The answer becomes an afterthought. That is not healthy for transparency. That is not healthy for accountability. And it certainly is not healthy for public trust. The hearing then moved into a broader debate about inflation, economic performance, and responsibility for rising prices. This is where the conversation shifted from legal questions to economic questions. Republican members argued that many of today's economic challenges were rooted in policies enacted before the current administration. Democrats argued that current policies deserve blame for rising costs facing American families. This is a debate that Americans have been having for years. Who deserves credit when the economy improves? Who deserves blame when prices rise? Who is responsible for inflation, energy costs, housing affordability, and grocery prices? Those are complex questions that rarely have simple answers. But what is undeniable is that Americans continue to feel economic pressure. Families care less about political talking points and more about what happens when they visit the grocery store, pay their utility bills, fill up their gas tanks, or make mortgage payments. That is why these hearings matter. Not because politicians can score points against one another, not because clips can go viral online, but because the policies being debated affect real people. As conservatives, many of us believe that transparency, equal application of the law, limited government, and economic opportunity should be guiding principles. We believe no individual should be above the law. We believe government agencies should be accountable to the American people. And we believe political disagreements should ultimately be resolved through facts rather than slogans. Watching this hearing, I came away with a mixed reaction. I think lawmakers have every right to ask difficult questions. I think government officials have an obligation to provide answers whenever possible. But I also think Americans are growing tired of hearings that generate more heat than light. The average citizen watching at home wants information. They want facts. They want accountability. They want solutions. What they often get instead is political theater. The biggest takeaway from this hearing may not be any single accusation or rebuttal. It may be the growing frustration Americans feel with a system where both sides spend so much time attacking each other that the public never gets the full picture. Whether you support President Trump, oppose him, support the Treasury Department, or distrust it completely, one principle should remain constant. Government must be transparent. Congress must conduct meaningful oversight, and serious allegations should be backed by serious evidence. That is how accountability works. That is how trust is earned. And that is how democratic institutions remain strong. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did the Congresswoman raise legitimate concerns that deserve stronger answers? Or did the hearing become more focused on political confrontation than fact-finding? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Freedom Forge, and share it with friends and family who care about government accountability, economic policy, and the future of American leadership. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.